This is the part where NATO says the quiet part out loud. I can't wait to get Zoya's thoughts on this because she has the life experience. Not only is she well researched, but she does a great job exposing Western talking points on this. And essentially, the West, they call RBN Putin puppets. People like Richie Torres look at Jose like he's crazy because he bring up facts that they don't know. Ilhan Omar, when called out for Ukraine funding, he's like, "Oh my God, couldn't wait to rebuke you, Russian propagandists." They have no idea what the hell is going on. You have people in NATO that admit things that we say on the timeline, and people call us a conspiracy theorist. And this is unbelievable. This is, I think, Jens Stoltenberg, the chief of NATO. We play him all the time on this show. Like, this guy is constantly saying unhinged shit. Like, he's the same guy that said you can expect a full-out NATO war with China coming soon. Now, this guy, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with him, because he just say the quiet part out loud all the time. And I guess he knows the Western media is not going to cover anything of significance in this country, I guess. So he says this stuff. He's like, well, I know BBC is not going to cover this. I know the NATO left media is not going to cover this. But this is why people like RBN and other anti-imperialist media exist. This comes from his mouth. Listen to this.
Didn't start in February last year. The war started in 2014. And since 2014, NATO allies have provided support to Ukraine with training, with equipment. So the Ukrainian armed forces were much stronger in 2022 than they were in 2014. And of course, that made a huge difference when President Putin decided to attack Ukraine.
That's him just saying, yeah, we was involved in 2014. We did that in order to make sure the Ukrainian forces are strong to fight Russia later. The same way that you literally had German politicians, you have NATO leaders that say stuff like out and open. Yeah, the Minsk Accords, it was just a stalling tactic. We never planned on implementing those. The Minsk Accord was just a stalling tactic so the Ukrainian Nazis can build up the militaristic force while the fascist regime under Zelensky and the Western Ukrainian rule can solidify power. Allow them to do that, and then let's come together and fight Russia. These are things that they're saying out loud. But if you say this, which I've said this many times, many people who've been rebuking the Ukraine war have been telling people like Matt Duss and the NATO left that this war did not start last year. The war started in 2014. Ukraine lost its sovereignty the second that Victoria Nuland selected their prime minister. The second that NATO decided to arm Nazis in Ukraine, that even something that Jacobin reported on. Here it is. I got this bookmark. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, because we all know that Jacobin is hijacked by Democratic establishment shields, as I just exposed in my last segment. But look, even they used to write about this. Look, this January 2022. So right before the invasion. And then they're like, oh, shit. The CIA may be breeding Nazi terror in Ukraine. The CIA has been secretly training anti-Russian groups in Ukraine since 2015. Now, this is what the NATO left used to talk about. Ilhan Omar used to talk about, Ro Khanna used to call out Ukraine funding and how we shouldn't be funding neo-Nazis in Ukraine. He literally tweeted that and then deleted it. So that's how you know the NATO left is not acting in good faith. They are completely erasing these articles they used to write from the brain. Zoya, Andrew, any thoughts on this? I'll get Zoya in here first, then we get Andrew in here.
It's just so vindicating to find these clips so that we can reference them instead of people, replying with Putin's puppet and you work for the Kremlin and all of this nonsense, because this was in the public sphere. It's incredible how Americans have amnesia. I mean, even the war in Iraq, we went in there illegitimately, killed over 1 million people, and we're still in Iraq. These people lied to us about weapons of mass destruction, and now people are actually quoting the Pentagon like they're a reliable source. Putin has offered diplomacy throughout this conflict. And even the Nord Stream pipeline, the fact that we needed some expose to be able to discuss it, when logically Putin said himself, why would I blow up my own pipeline when I can just shut it off? And that logic is not enough.
And now,
go ahead.
Sorry, my bad, Zoe. But now the NATO left, I noticed they're not covering the Seymour Hersh bombshell on the Nord Stream pipeline. There's been a massive media blackout on that story. Right. I want to get Andrew in here, and then Zoe, I'll let you chime in after that. So, Andrew, anything you want to add to the conversation of Stoltenberg and saying the quiet part out loud? Once again, they keep doing it.
Yeah, I'll just say it's so valuable having these clips, and there's a lot of people. I mean, primarily, I want to plug like Case Study QB because you just spend so much time watching all this mind-numbing crap that I can't stand. Like if my parents have it on in the other room when I'm home, I'm like, oh man, I got to go outside.
Yeah.
And I can do it if I put myself in the mindset. I have some intoxicating substances and like maybe put on like music behind me. I can do it, but it's hard work and
I didn't watch any corporate media for years, and I started doing propaganda report with CJ, and I wanted to expose to people the obvious lies that we do. Now, when we do these propaganda report segments, I didn't start watching corporate media again until we started RBN, because especially in the midst of the Ukraine war, I wanted to show people segments on how they lying. So I started watching it again, and I may be wrong here, but I was like, I feel like it's worse. I feel like it's worse now because I was like, dude, this shit is unbearable. Like you watch Morning Joe, I never watch these things for like news. I will literally watch it just to observe how openly they propagandizing people. To me, it's fascinating. Like I'm watching Morning Joe. I see like the Fox and Friends people. I didn't watch corporate media for years. Now I'm doing propaganda. I'm like, this is unbelievable what they're doing to our people. But Andrew, sorry, I want to get Andrew and Zoya. I will get you guys back in before I move on.
No worries. I mean, I pretty much was going to wrap that up. I was just going to say like, well, I don't know. I'll be announcing more later on, but probably in about 6 to 7 weeks, I'm helping some other people that we actually all met from Call-In. And what we're going to do is put together archives of this stuff, of these clips, plus other news articles that's searchable. Because there's been so many times where I'm having to go back through Case's Twitter or like look for an old episode of you and CJ. And like, where's that one clip where Hillary Clinton accidentally told the truth about Syria, talking to that general on CNN? And it's just hard to find. And so I just praise everybody who's doing that work. And it's the best ammunition, like what Zoya mentioned earlier. Like if you just say anything logical, like why wouldn't Putin just turn off the pipeline instead of wasting the billions of dollars on Russia's part to build it? I remember around like the 2016 election being like, well, okay, I don't really think Russia's mingling in the election, but say that they are. I mean, Hillary Clinton is talking about no-fly zone for Russian jets in Syria. So, I mean, doesn't that kind of make sense for them? Like if that's what they're seeing on TV, wouldn't they kind of be interested in not going to war with the United States, and people just lose their mind? But I guess I'll just repeat one more time. Like I'll probably say this every day of the week. There are more people who don't vote in the United States than people that vote. And there are also many more people that don't watch this media. And so I think it's very valuable to have these clips to throw back in the face of the politicians and their stooges when they're trying to say, oh, you're just Putin's puppet or whatever. Well, here I have a clip of you saying this right here. So you can't really call me that. But at the same time, like, I think we also got to always be realistic that like, even if we're making just excellent arguments, we start to, build up our political power in our communities, using whatever strategies we have in a few years. We're maybe, if we're lucky, we'll pull 10-15% of the people away from Democrat and Republican parties. But a lot of those people, like, that's a minority of society that has a problem. Like I'm talking about like a serious like social problem where they can't pull themselves away from the corporate media or the parties, even though they're either being harmed by them or they have to ignore other people being harmed by them.
Well said, Andrew. I'm going to continue with the segment. I'll get you guys back in here. I was
going to add.
Go ahead. What?
America openly admits to overthrowing governments, and somehow when America does it, it's seen as protecting democracy. And right now, Zelensky has banned the press in Ukraine. He's banned 11 political parties and the second largest church in Ukraine. And armed thugs are pulling men off the streets and from their homes, forcing them to serve in this neo-Nazi resistance they have. And yet, our taxpayer money is going to these people instead of building infrastructure. And now we have these derailments causing environmental disasters. And meanwhile, our government won't even have town halls with us, refuses to acknowledge us. These politicians that are supposed to represent us aren't fighting for our issues. The only way we can start to wake people up is by presenting this counter narrative to the mainstream media so that people understand what's actually happening on the ground and don't fall for it anymore. Because way too many anti-war activists have suddenly become pro-war simply because a new villain was given to them. And whether it's going to be Gaddafi or Saddam Hussein or Putin, and next it's going to be China, they're always going to find a villain. They're always going to frame it as a just cause. But in reality, we're just killing millions of women and children. And there's no excuse for that.
And they ready for the war with China. I'll make over this tomorrow, but Caitlin Johnstone flagged this insane ad where Australia was pretty much prepping their people for war, showing the Chinese military said we gotta get ready for war. And now you have these people, as you said, they claim to be anti-war until the new war hits, and then they'll criticize our Afghanistan war, Iraq war. They'll criticize all the old shit they did, and then the new shit will pop up, and then they fall for the propaganda campaign, and all of a sudden they believe that the military-industrial complex and these war criminals are on a just campaign to defend Ukrainians instead of embarking on expanding the military-industrial complex in the armed state. They don't bring up the fact that NATO requires 2% military spending from Eastern nation states. So the United States have a vested interest in having NATO expanded. So the arms industry can benefit. And they don't call it the conflict of interest. They're not interested in talking about it. Not interested in talking about facts or history, for example. I want to show what else this NATO chief has said. He also said that a war with China is coming. This is another article that came from September. He called China a security challenge. And you got all these people, you got these progressives like Richie Torres, Maxwell Frost, and these people trying to do these town halls where they're like, yeah, let's fight the Republicans, man. We got to fight hard, push for incrementalism. Meanwhile, the ruling class is engaging in unhinged warmongering that they are supporting. And that's why when Jose is calling out Richie Torres, he's saying all this shit you talking about the Bronx, all this local politics means nothing if we are probably to a nuclear war, what NATO is actively looking to push, right? And once again, Stoltenberg has been caught saying this kind of stuff. And now he's gone. Because I don't know, this dude says a lot of crazy shit recently. So I don't know, like I saw this earlier, so I don't know if it's connected, but I think it's a funny way to wrap this part of the segment up. Because now Stoltenberg will not seek another extension of his term. So he's gone. So I'll just ask a question. Wonder if they told him not to run again. Or maybe he knew he wasn't going to run again, and that's why he starts saying crazy shit out loud like that. I don't know. I think it's just a funny way to end the segment, to be honest. But he said the quiet part out loud too many times, I think. But anyway, any last thoughts you guys have on this? I want to share this video. This is Claire Daly. I was thinking about putting this on the intro video. But to my earlier point, when you look at the media in this country and their lack of curiosity, this is what I said on the Jimmy Dore show, where I was like, you have the Nord Stream pipeline, which obviously the United States did it. And Seymour, he explains, he's like, bro, it wasn't like really hard to find this information. Like, it wasn't really hard to ask around and get this information. It's just no one was interested in the Western media. The lack of curiosity in this country, in the Western media, I do not see as a coincidence. Like, people just think, oh my God, why all these shitty reporters are high? No, it's not a coincidence. What we have is the worst form of state media. You have capitalists pretend that we're the land of the free. That, oh my God, China, Russia, They got state media. No, the media complicity in this country, any tyrant or dictator will be in awe of and jealous of. They don't have. They just know what to say. They know if someone know if they say anything about the Ukraine war, their career is over. Their livelihood is over. Their position in their social club is over. They built such a complex media apparatus where you can't climb. This is what Noam Chomsky wrote about in Manufactured Consent. You can't climb this social media ladder. I didn't mean social media, but like social corporate media career ladder without already knowing what you have to do. If you cover Nord Stream and you expose how the United States did it, you're not going to be in that job. If you even have the mindset that will make you do that, you probably wouldn't even make it that far. That's how complex our media system, which no one else has ever been able to pull off, right? You have some countries that have ranked state media that repeats the government narrative. No, we got that new shit, son. Like I said about AOC and Bernie. When it comes to selling out, they are that new shit. This is that new propaganda. Now I'm gonna play Claire Daly here, because Claire Daly's gonna call this out. Like, why no one? Where's the responsibility after this bombshell reporting? So let's play the video. I think it speaks for itself.
Since September, the lack of interest in finding answers to who was behind the Nord Stream gas explosion has been frankly astounding. This was an act of sabotage, an act of unrivaled vandalism, economically and environmentally, and not a word, no discussion, no questions. Then along comes Seymour Hersh, the world's most acclaimed, distinguished living investigative journalist. He produces a detailed claim that the United States executed this explosion with the help of Norway. Planned months before the invasion, a Norwegian Navy P-8 surveillance plane dropped a sonar buoy on the 26th of September, which triggered explosions planted by US Navy Panama City divers 3 months earlier under a NATO exercise, and still nothing. I don't know what happened, but I want to know. This is a man who doesn't make claims lightly, a man with contacts, and I find it frankly jaw-dropping that the EU is not asking questions as to who is responsible for sabotaging the livelihoods of our citizens. I am ashamed to be a European.
I am ashamed to be a European. Claire Daly, base as hell.